back to the channel. It's been about 10 years. Thank you for sticking with me. Those of you that have still got as subscribers, I know most of you watched my powdery mildew video and subscribed off that. And I hope even 10 years later to still bring you good information that you can use in your home gardens, and we can experience gardening issues and successes, victories and failures all together. And I can give you some beneficial information, and you can maybe learn from some of the things that I'm doing on the garden in my house. So you're probably wondering, what's going on? Got a brand new structure, new property. This isn't the same place that it looks like you were at 10 years ago. Well, you're right. I've moved twice since then. So we moved out to North Carolina and moved back to Tennessee, back to the Nashville area. We've had some ups and downs, lost a few family members. I had a few kids. So I've got 4 kids now. One is going to be a senior next year, and one is going to be a kindergartner in a couple of years. So very wide range. So that's why you haven't seen a whole lot of videos from me these last 10 years. Life's thrown a lot of curveballs, and I didn't really have a whole lot of time for gardening. Did a little gardening in North Carolina, did a little bit when we moved out here, and I'm finally to the point where I can actually focus some time on putting some quality content on YouTube, doing some new things with the garden. Did a lot of rain gutter growing in the last series of videos. If you watch the also see I did some raised beds. I'm doing something not completely different, but not exactly the same. So we're still doing the rain gutter grow system, but we're using downspouts instead of gutters, and we're using hydroponic nutrients instead of water, so that we can feed the plants with the nutrient solution instead of feeding them with compost and manure and fertilizer. So you'll see that. You're probably wondering, why do you have a structure around your garden? Well, my wife, I love her to death. She's a wonderful woman. She got tired of the eyesore that was the rain gutter grow systems that were on the ground back in the first series of videos. And you can see that you're probably thinking, wow, it would suck to live right next door to that guy, because it did create a bit of an eyesore. Gardening can be something that isn't especially attractive to look at. And that's especially true when we're talking about the buckets. Nobody really wants to see a whole bunch of icing buckets sitting out in the open, especially if you live on the property that they're sitting out on. So I've got neighbors with fences next door, and we're a little set off from the street, but we just wanted it to look nice. So you'll see that, and the structure is really inexpensive. And then that hides the buckets from being visible in view, makes it look a lot more attractive, and I don't have to worry about my HOA getting onto me, because this is in a slightly higher level of neighborhood than the first series of videos that you see, where we're just kind of living in a low income area and nobody really cared. So we're doing that. This is why it's behind a structure. It gives me a footprint to work with. So we're doing hydroponics instead of growing in the ground. There's a lot of great material on YouTube for that. I want to thank Hucho and Keep On Growing with Mike Van Duzy. I'll put links in the description so you can see their channels. They've kind of got me back into gardening. So we're going to put these systems together. Right now, there's not a whole lot that is put together because we're in mid-March, and God decided that he wanted to throw us a curveball, got me all excited about gardening in February, gave us some 60, 70 degree days, and then put us back in the fridge for a few weeks. So I had some plants out here. I've had to take them back in because we're under a freeze warning for the next few days. And it's windy and cold, and nothing really grows in the cold anyways. So as much as I like Hucho and Mike Van Duzy, they grow in warmer climates, and they don't really have to wear jackets because they're in Florida and Australia. I do. So same climate. I'm thinking in, I think, zone 6A or 6B. So we do get seasonal changes. We do have to worry about frost. We do have to worry about freezes, especially at the beginning of the season and the end of the season. This is early March or mid-March now. So I'll take you and give you a tour of the inside of the structure, show you where we're going to have an NFT system that we'll use for lettuce and for leafy greens and for herbs. We're also going to be converting one of my wife's old planters. We're going to put an NFT into that planter, so you get to see conversion of an existing structure to a hydroponic NFT. That will come in a later video. We're going to have some indoor NFTs that we'll build as the summer starts to wind down and we begin thinking about having to grow leafy greens indoors, because as much as people talk about, well, just find a sunny window. Your plants won't get enough sun and a sunny window, especially in the winter when the days are shorter, unless you live in Florida or near the equator and you get sun 24/7, in which case you don't have to worry about growing indoors anyways. So that's some of the concerns that you have to think about when you have a cold winter that you need to bring your plants in. I've also got a grow box set up inside. So I'll give you a quick sneak look at that. Show you some of the plants that we're going to be planting. And I'll show you what's going on in these beds. So as you can see, this is the inside of the structure. It's got rails that we're building, and I flipped the back upside down because we're expecting to get freeze for the next few days. We had a nice little warm snap in February, which got me all excited, got me out here doing this stuff. And then, of course, as soon as you do that, Mother Nature turns on you. So we're going to have 5 rails. We're going to have 4 short ones, 2 on each side. We're going to have a longer rail in the back. I've got a roof on this. It's just some 2x4s that will have a trellis hanging from. And then back behind the garden is our reservoir. And so you can see a little messy there. I'm trying to cover it up so it wouldn't freeze, and then I decided to just unhook everything. So the reservoir runs a pipe into the space, and then we move this. You can see how cold it got last night. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning, and we still have a nice little layer of ice. So this gutter is upside down, so you can't see a ton of it. I'll show you some more on the inside of the garage when we get there. But the pipe is going to fit into the end of the gutter, and then we have holes. Let me go ahead and just turn it over for you. We have holes drilled, and those holes will have net cups on the bottom of these buckets. Not these. I'll show you the ones that I'm going to be using when we get inside. But the bottom of these buckets will have net cups in them, which will sit in the rain gutter. This is not regular water. This is a hydroponic nutrient solution. So I'm going to have to probably give it a little bit of a treatment because it looks like it's starting to discolor a bit from algae. So won't really be able to reuse that. I'll probably have to put some peroxide in there. These are the buckets that we're going to be using. I'm going to have a 2-inch hole drilled in the bottom of that so that it sticks out of the bottom of the bucket. And then those will go in the gutter, or it's the downspout really. Those will go in the downspout, which will have hydroponic solution in it. I've got 4 rebar stakes that we're going to use to have an NFT system over here, a full-on NFT that will have lettuce and herbs and grow some of our leafy greens in. So we've got a video that'll be posting soon on the build for that you'll see on our channel. That'll be one of the first ones you see. And then I'll do a video explaining this rain gutter system once it's a little bit more set up and running. Right now it's just, a couple of gutters, some landscaping timbers, and the reservoir, but we'll have more to come on that. All right, so we are inside the garage now. As you can tell, it's a little warmer in the garage, so I don't need the coat. It's still a little chilly. So behind me is a grow box that I set up, I've been using, and it's something that you can set up at your house for really cheap. It is cardboard that I've cut from some of the Amazon boxes that we all get on a pretty regular basis. The cardboard, I've got some spray adhesive that I got for a few bucks at Walmart that I had laying around, and aluminum foil on the inside. If you use the aluminum foil, make sure you use the shiny side, because there's 2 sides. One's a shiny side, one's more of a dull side. So try and make sure you use the shiny side of the aluminum foil. But that's what's behind me. So let me take you inside and you can see what we've got growing. See here, the grow box. Let me pull you back out so you can see the lid. Just folds up. The sides and the back are all foil. A little bit of foil on top where I had some openings, and then the rest is just the stuff you see sitting on the top of my shelf that I really never use. So I got a couple of different ways that we're growing here. We've got some burpee seed starting trays, and then we've got some seed starters in the back that I bought on Amazon, and they were like I don't know, 10 of them for 20, 30 bucks. They come with the lids, they come with the plant inserts that you see. And these are all grown in rock wool. And I'll show you, you can get rock wool on Amazon, but I'll show you a cheap way that you can get almost unlimited rock wool that you'll need for your home garden. The top two lights, one of those is the one in the back is a Manios light fixture. It's a grow light. It was maybe 40, 45 bucks on Amazon, or maybe 30. This front light is just a shop light from Walmart, which was 15. And I don't know if the camera will pick it up, a little harder to see, but the shop light LEDs look almost identical to the Manios LED lights. So these are both LED fixtures. They don't create a whole lot of heat. I have this little heater that I keep down here where it can blow heat into the grow box from the underside to kind of warm up the plants because they didn't really like it when the garage was, 45, 50 degrees at night. So this keeps the grow box closer to 65 or even 70 degrees when we get to the heat of the day. You see I've got onions started. I also have some onions in one of the planters that I've already planted. I got some lettuce. Got some flowers, some nasturtium, and some marigolds back here. We've got some beans in the back of this row. We've got some cucumbers started on that next row. The third row is squash and zucchini that haven't really sprouted yet. These two have, which is kind of funny. And then we got a couple more marigolds for the wife's flower beds. Coming back to the very back there, we've got an assortment. These are some of the herbs and leftover seedlings that I had from my first adventure in planting. So you got some basil, some parsley in the back, and some sage. And then in the front, you have tomatoes and peppers. So they are doing well, putting off true leaves. This is a little, if you watch Keep On Growing with Mike Van Duzy, you know what this is. This is a Chinese takeout container that we've converted into a seed starter. And this is how I started a lot of my first seeds before I realized that it wasn't going to be exactly what I needed to go into the systems that I'm going to be using. And I'll tell you more about that later. This is some onions that I've already trimmed back, green onions, so they'll grow and keep on sending out shoots and get a little bit bigger and can put most of their energy into kind of thickening up a little bit. In the back is some more tomatoes and peppers that I had left over from the initial seed starting mixes. Let's get you back here and show you. These are some leftover seeds that I had from those early seed starters, and I hate to let anything die that doesn't have to. So I just kept those and try and keep them growing, and I'll give them to some of the gardeners at church as some free plant starts once they get big enough to really, be able to hold their own. These are the black containers that you see in the back, but they've got the dome on them. Those are some flowers that we've got for our flower garden that I'm starting. Hollyhock and zinnia, dahlia, phlox. And then I got a bunch more of those upstairs, along with a few more herbs and vegetables that we're going to be starting as well. So I had to bring these guys in because it's as hardy as the lettuce is, I didn't want to risk it freezing. So the lettuce is some mustard greens, some kale, some salad mixes, and some mesclun. This is the big plants you see here are sunflowers. And then I had a kale that snuck in there right here. So got some sunflowers there. A kale plant, some onions, and then some butterfly and some honeybee attractant flowers that are down there growing on the soil. These are green beans. They are stressed from being transplanted. So there you have it. It's not the most attractive setup in the world, but it doesn't have to be attractive in your garage. As long as the plants look good and are healthy and are producing fruit and food for you and your family while they're outside, or in the case of the flowers, as long as they're looking pretty when they go out in the ground, that's what really matters. So the garage will get cleaned up more once the spring and summer stuff is out in the yard instead of in my garage. And you'll see a little bit a cleaner space once we get to that point. But thank you for watching to this point. For those of you that are wondering, yes, the name of the channel did change. The name of the channel is Barefoot Gardening because I don't know if you saw while we were looking at the plants, but I like to wear flip-flops even in really cold weather. And it's kind of a thing with me, so changed the name to Barefoot Gardening because it just kind of fits in and it's a cool little name. So this is Dewey with Barefoot Gardening reminding you that you can plant the seed, but God sends the harvest. Take care, y'all. We'll see you next time.